What is up, guys? Today we're out here on Canyon Lake fishing. We're taking a break from the crappie fishing that is going on right now, but I'm gonna go over kind of my 2018 lineup of rod and reel combos with you guys, so you guys have kind of an idea of what rods and reels you might want to pick up for the seasons ahead, and hopefully you guys will take away some of the rods and like the details of why I picked some of these rods with some of these swim baits on. So, but first, you guys have seen this guy in some of my latest videos. His name is Tony in Maryland. Bleep, bleep. And I'm going to have him kind of just introduce himself and who he actually is and what he's doing out here in the desert.
What is up, guys? So, as he said, thank you, man. I do want to appreciate you for that nice introduction.
Yeah,
it's
no
about time.
problem, man. About time.
This little partnership kind of started a while ago when I didn't really know how to throw anything. But I made a move, man, up here about a year ago and researched all kind of fishing and what's up here in this Phoenix area. And this guy just kept popping up, and I just rode with it and had to get in contact with him. Somehow magic has happened. I done blew a ton of money on a whole bunch of stuff this guy has told me to get.
All of his social media is down below. You guys will hopefully be able to check him out. I know he's going to be posting some videos up here pretty soon, right?
Well, the lake kind of has to be nice to us before that happens. But
sure, the fishing has not been nice, but
I got one or two catches, but going up against this guy, I'll let him do it.
But hopefully the fishing picks up. We still have a lot of time today, but I'm going to show you guys pretty much my rod and reels right now. I'm hoping to add on to my collection over this next year or so. Maybe pick up a couple other different selections of rods and sizes and actions. But I'm just going to kind of show you guys what I've been using to throw some of my swim baits as of recently. So we're just going to get right into it. So my first setup is like my soft bait setup. Now my soft bait setup is just my Moams. It's an 8.3 extra heavy rod. It's got a little bit lighter of a tip. You know, when I'm down there, it has a lot better of sensitivity than normal, just heavy, extra heavy rods. So which I really like for like the soft bait. So I'm throwing like the 10-inch Huddleston or the Magnum on this setup. Now the reel that I've got on this setup is my Shimano Calcutta Conquest. It's the 400 size. I've only thrown this probably 8-9 trips now, but I absolutely love this reel. It is a pretty pricey reel, but it's definitely worth it so far to me. The one fish that I've stuck on this setup, it was super smooth grinding that fish in, and it just felt amazing. And it's a smaller 400 size reel than some of the other ones, but it has the same amount of power as a 400 size reel, and I love how small it is. I'm able to, you know, palm it actually like fairly well. I don't even have that big of hands, but it just fits in the palm of my hand real easily. And it's just an absolutely perfect setup. Now, when it comes to soft bait rods, you do want to have, again, a little bit of tip, so it's got a little bit loading up power, but you want to have a rod that has a good amount of backbone. So when I'm fishing like this Huddleston, you know, coming up from 40 feet into 20 feet, and I get bit in like 30 or so on like a long cast, I can feel the bait getting eaten, you know, just because of that softer tip. So then I kind of load up, make sure that the fish is there, make sure that it chokes it, and then with my backbone, I crank that fish as hard as I can. So I set the hook, and these baits have jig hooks, so I want that extra backbone so I can set the hook a lot harder on those fish. So it's the same thing as like throwing conventional rods for like a jig. You want a little bit of tip, so it's got the sensitivity, but you want that backbone to drive the hook. So it's the same exact thing as throwing like a jig, but we're throwing just, you know, big swim baits. Now, the line that I'm normally throwing on this reel is 20-pound copolymer or 20-pound mono or 20-pound fluorocarbon. It kind of just depends on the time of the year and what bait I'm throwing. This time of year, I'm going with the 20-pound fluorocarbon, something a little bit lighter. Just because we are fishing clear water, and I do like having the less stretch that fluorocarbon has, so I can set those hooks even harder with, you know, these jig hook style baits. So it's pretty much the same as like a jig rod, just beefed up and a little bit longer, a little bit heavier line, bigger baits, and hopefully bigger fish. So that's kind of just my soft bait setup that I've been throwing with, and so far I really like it. So super sick setup and very smooth. Alright guys, so on to my second rod. It's going to be my Moam's extra heavy rod.
Excuse me.
Now this is a beef stick of a rod. This is what I throw pretty much all of my baits anywhere from 10 inches all the way up to 12 inches. This rod's rated 6 to 12 ounces. So it's made for big baits. So like right now, I've got the Hinkle Trout on here. It's an 11-inch bait, weighs around 9 ounces. And this rod absolutely handles it perfectly. I can throw it a country mile. The rod loads up really well on it, so I don't have to work too hard to throw this bait out there. The rod does all of the work for me. The super stout rod's got a super long handle as well, and that helps with just throwing out the baits and not having to work too much of your shoulders, so it doesn't get too tiring throwing a bait of this size and even bigger like the Roman made mother. Find out on this rod, I've got my Shimano Tranex 400 size reel. This is their high speed reel. This is the 7.1 to 1 gear ratio reel, so it's super fast. Now I got this one just because I knew that I was going to be throwing like the Hinkle and the mother, and when I'm throwing these baits, they cover a lot of water. I want to pick up the line that these baits will cover through the water, you know, much quicker, so I can keep them going without having to work too much of the rod, so I can just work the reel, you know, pretty quickly. And it picks up lines perfectly. It's super fast, and it makes fishing like the mother and the Hinkle a lot easier than per se like the Calcutta Conquest, which is like a 5:1 to 1 gear ratio. So the faster gear ratio will be a lot better for like the big glide baits, and so that's why I've got it on here. I've caught quite a few fish on it. I've beaten it up, and it's still super smooth. It is a bigger size reel, but I'm still able to hold it comfortably in my left hand while I'm reeling it in. This reel, for a low profile reel in a size 400, it's actually really nice. So if you guys are looking for like a really big bait reel for like some of these bigger swim baits, and you want to put it on like an extra heavy, I definitely recommend going with the Tranex. They do make slower gear ratio reels as well as if they just want the single handle reel, they have those as well. So there's a lot of options that you can get with this Tranex, and just for even the price of it, it's an absolutely golden reel. Now the line that I'm throwing on here, I normally will go either with 25-pound mono or 30-pound mono. I've got 30-pound mono right now on this reel, just because I am throwing like the mother or the Hinkle on here. I normally will go with 25. I just don't have 25 at the moment, but the 30 works just fine. And I'm a big fan of throwing like these really big glide baits and some of these other big soft baits, and so like this setup alone just fits the description super well for that kind of stuff. Now the last setup that I've been using a lot lately is just my 8-foot. It's an extra heavy LDC. It's a LowDownCustom rod. This is one of their older production model rods. I've had it for a decent amount of time, and I absolutely love this rod as well. And so this is pretty much a rod that I throw like my smaller glide baits on. So like we've got a Depths 250 tight on right now. I throw my HPH on this rod or my Clash on this rod. It has a little bit lighter of a tip as well. It works really well with like the glide baits, especially the smaller ones. It can handle some of the soft baits. It's just I already have that rod designed for it. So the only thing I could think of was I just put on just my smaller glide baits like the 250 or the HPH, and the rod handles it just fine. It's got a super long handle, which all of my rods have come with. And once you guys kind of switch from like going from like your regular production company rods to like custom rods that have like the longer handles, you'll notice a completely difference in just your casting and comfortability of casting some of these baits. It helps a lot better when casting, and you don't use so much torque of your own body to cast some of these baits. Now, the reel that I have on here is my Revo Big Shooter. This is a 7.1 to 1 gear ratio reel, so it's a little bit quicker, but it's the same deal as throwing like that Tranex. I want to pick up line. I want to dart these baits, you know, pretty quickly through the water, so I'm able to move a lot of water but keep these baits in the strike zone still a long time with this reel. And this reel is just an absolute workhorse for me. The line that I've been throwing on this setup is normally 20-pound mono, nothing heavier, nothing lighter though. And with 20-pound mono, it works just perfectly for the glide baits that I've been throwing, just because the heaviest glide bait I'm throwing on the setup nowadays is gonna be like the 250 at 6 ounces, and then the HBH is like 4.5, and then you got the Clash at like 3.5, 4 ounces. So it's nothing too heavy, so I don't need that super heavy line. And with some of these smaller glide baits, line size can make such a huge difference in the glide. So you want to definitely go with the smaller line, just because like with the HPH, I've noticed that if you go with the heavier line, that bait doesn't swim that good at all. And so a lot of people will throw the HPH on like 25, and the bait just won't swim good at all. And then you go down to 20 pound or even like 18 pound, and that thing swims just a whole heck of a lot better just because of the size of the line. It's crazy how so many small things can affect like the swim of some of these baits. This setup has a lot of mojo to it, and I absolutely love this setup. But it is an older model. They do make new models that look even better than this one, but this one's definitely a workhorse for sure. You've been throwing this lately. What are your intake on the whole setup?
Oh man,
Because that is your 250, by the way. It's his first 250.
first one. I mean, we saw it online, and he sent me the link, and he was like, "Dude, you better grab it."
I was like, you better get that, dude.
So I had to cash out and get it, man. But no, man, I've been grateful enough to actually use some of your stuff, and I've been trying to get this reel off of you ever since you let me throw it. So it's legit, man. And then paired up with the custom rod that you have, like you got the perfect match here, I think, with all of your stuff, man. You paired them up nicely with the hard baits and the lines and everything, and I'm just taking mental notes, man. So when I'm no longer taking up space on your boat, I can tell somebody else this stuff. But no, man, the Big Shooter's great. You done cleaned it up. I definitely noticed a big difference in it from when we were out fishing last time to fishing it now, man. And it's, like you said, the line and everything just makes a big difference when you're doing these kind of baits and stuff. I was like, I know I didn't get bit, but some marks on there, maybe in my dreams. But no, dude, I love it, man. I love it.
Now, a trait on all of my rods is that they're all spiral wrapped. And so what that means is that the guides start off normal and then they wrap underneath the blank. Now, it acts pretty much just for torque, and that like the line doesn't touch the blank of the rod, so it doesn't nick anything or anything like that. So it just helps with fighting bigger fish. A lot of the saltwater dudes, they've actually started to convert to the spiral wrap just to help fight some of these fish. And so it's kind of just like a half regular bait casting rod and then a spinning rod combined together to make a spiral wrap rod. And I've noticed not like gigantic difference between it, but I've definitely felt a difference between going from like a standard bait casting rod to like a spiral wrap rod, and I just feel more comfortable with the spiral wrap. You guys can talk to some of the rod makers to get even more details on why they do it, but for me, I just feel like it just helps with fighting bigger fish for sure.
So of course I got it with the G-Man and just started asking, just what's a good beginner, what's not gonna break the bank, or do you know any locals that are, getting rid of some stuff I can get a hand on? And well, what he did, he found me a dude, man, local, with the guide. So like make sure I'm pronouncing this right, the Akuma.
The Akuma.
The Akuma. It's a 711 extra heavy, no spiral wrap or nothing. So one thing that I wanted to talk about too is the handle on the rod on the back end. When going from this and then actually throwing one of yours with that extra handle, he pointed out that I look pretty awkward casting this stuff. So once I got something with a longer handle and I can throw some stuff out, like that's what you want. But getting started on this guy is not bad at all. The Shimano Cardiff, not bad. It was about 120 bucks. I ordered off Bass Pro Shop. It was all nice and shiny when it came in, but I actually been using it. It's not collecting dust or anything. Super smooth reel. The line goes back and forth between 20 and 25. I'm not doing anything major. I don't have any hinkles or mothers or anything. One day though, and that's when we upgrade, to the bigger stuff. But no, it's been a solid rod. It's been a good learning rod and reel. So for you guys out there, looking to pick up something like, to test out if you even want to get into it. I know Bass Pro Shop, Sportsman's, I've seen it everywhere, and right along with the reel too. So honestly, it's not a bad pickup. It didn't break the bank. Super easy to fish, super easy to learn and get used to, and kind of build you up for those next stages of the Big Shooter or the Calcutta. So I mean, as always, I thank you for the information and the guidance, man, on picking this stuff up. But great beginner rod. You guys should definitely maybe not as simple, or not as similar, but like I said, it got the job done. 711 with the Cardiff 300, man.
We've had a lot of questions on what rods and reels that we're throwing, and so that's that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out his channel that he's going to be starting up here pretty soon, Bearded Fishing. You can also check him out on the Instagram. You guys can check out my Instagram. I'll leave all that stuff down in the description below if you guys wanted to check any of that stuff out. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, go out there and chase your dreams.